you doing this?
Urgh. Cool.
What's up, man?
Not much. How you been?
Pretty good. Yeah, I got to go to when you text me on Monday, I was at the Bulls game.
I was confused because you said Vegas. I'm like, wait, what?
Oh, no, you asked me what program I used to record.
Ah, okay. That makes more
Yes.
sense.
Yeah, so I sent you those pictures because I was at we were second row, right under the hoop.
Nice. How'd you get those tickets?
Um, my buddy got them for Christmas, and because the Bulls suck,
Oh, yeah.
that, yeah, it was I was right next to Luka Doncic. Yeah, it was pretty fun actually. Like
Nice.
that, like you get to see, like the game aside, which obviously it's the sporting event and all that stuff. Always a good time. Blah blah blah. The cool stuff was sitting so close, you could see so Kristaps Porzingis. He sat out this game, so he was just in his suit, which was pretty ill-fitting, by the way, for a man who is worth millions of dollars. Like I'm not criticizing him. I'm saying is like I'm pretty sure Taylor had a hard time finding the pants to fit a 7'3" individual. Anyway, so his pants were like this far away from his ankles. Yeah, he had three-quarter length pants.
Oh, that's just no.
but but you get anyway, so he was in his suit and he came up behind on one of the other I think it was in one of the other players, and he goes like this and just wipes his hand like on his face. The guy turns around and he's like, "Dude, what the?" And so half the team's laughing, and then you figure like, it's just a joke, like it's over with. That guy was like really pissed, and he reaches for
Yeah.
some hand sanitizer, like a bottle of hand sanitizer, and chucks it at like Kristaps.
Damn. That escalated quickly.
Yeah, it was actually really fun to see them like goof around on the sidelines.
Wonder if it was a locker room coronavirus joke.
Yeah, that could be it, probably. Like he's probably messing
He's
around.
probably told everyone he was a giant germaphobe, and then
Yeah, oh, that's probably it.
yeah. Ooh.
Okay, so there are fights this weekend. I don't know if you heard.
Oh, there's fights this weekend. There's some
Yes.
serious fights that we this weekend that we have to talk about.
So, what is it? Oh, it's UFC 248. That's what it is. Okay, so
Yep.
the main event, Yoel Romero versus Israel Adesanya. So I'll set it up and then I'll let you give your little thing first. So
Please.
Israel Adesanya um, made the move over to MMA about just a little over 2 years ago now. It's been the talk of the whole thing, like what this man's been able to do in the past 2 years. Yes, that's impressive, but he planned it. What's really impressive to me isn't how fast he made the climb to the title picture and how successful he's been in MMA. It's how he planned it. He was offered a fight. I believe it was with the UFC, but I know he was offered. Yeah, yeah, it was because he had an MMA fight beforehand in the amateurs and he lost. So he got offered a fight because he was such a good kickboxer in the UFC, and he said, "No, I'm not ready for that yet." That's
Yep.
You mean that how many people turn down the opportunity to fight in the UFC? And this isn't to say that he's like some badass who's like Fedor, who's like world famous and can do whatever he wants and like, I'm gonna go start my own organization called M1 Global. He just knew that if
He
he
wanted to
wasn't
do it
ready.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He wasn't ready. And he knew that when he was coming, he said it in the promo, but his belief was the first fight that he had in the UFC was going to be like he was going to be championship ready. The first fight he had, right? So that's what's impressive to me. So we've got him. He makes his rise, looks unbelievable, has one of the best fights in UFC history. I think recency bias is kind of people are like, oh, that's so much better. I still stand by Roy McDonald versus Robbie Lawler for the title is my favorite fight of all time. Um,
Yeah.
so he has a great fight
Yes.
with. So um, Israel Adesanya ends up having an amazing fight with Kelvin Gastelum, right? So it's a back and forth fight. It's there are times where both guys get rocked, tons of damage on both sides. One of those ones where like there's probably a couple years coming off your life. Um, and in the fifth round, in between the fourth and the fifth round, in his corner, Israel Adesanya says I'm ready to die. Like I'm ready to die. Holy shit, how
Yeah.
fucking badass is he? Right. So all of this to set up like his title fight versus Whitaker, and Whitaker had his moments in the first round, but in the second, like at the end of it, he got put on his ass, and then in the second round, just mopped the floor with Whitaker and made him look silly. Then he gets set up to fight Paulo Costa, the Eraser, Boachina, I think is his nickname. So he gets set up to fight him because Boachina just beat uh, Yoel
Yo, Romero.
Romero.
Yep.
Like, split decision, close one, and some
Yeah.
people who are blah blah blah, whatever. He gets hurt or sick, one or the other. So, what does Israel Adesanya do? Because he says like I want to be an active champion. Because they've been asking him about going to fight John Jones and was he's like I'm not trying to abandon the division. I just like I want to clean out my division first. I want to be an active champion. Let the challengers pile up. Let's go. And the person that he picked, not the person the UFC picked, because I guarantee you they would not have made this fight if they would have waited. He goes like, I want Yoel Romero, the guy that nobody ever wants to fight, the guy that Michael Bisping, when he was the champ, did everything he could not to fight, rightfully so, whatever.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have to, he's the champ. Point is, this guy challenges him. That's going down this Saturday. You take it away.
All right. So kicking into that, I think at this point, we've got a pretty good background on who Yoel Romero is. Somewhat of a controversial figure.
Cheater.
Some minor allegations of PD use in the
Ice,
past.
ice. Doesn't get off the stool.
Yeah, some questionable events that have happened in the ring. And then, no one's really 100% sure how old he is. Let's be honest.
No
Like
forgiveness.
it feels a little stereotypical now at this point, especially with Cuban athletes, but like that's a reality. You know, there's a lot of question marks when it comes to Romero. But one thing that is undeniable, he just has these weird moments in the ring where he explosively can just turn it around when no one sees it coming. Like he has that capability in every fight, just to you don't see it coming and he just comes at you in a way that you weren't expecting. You just get those bursts of energy. And he's, had some pretty big wins.
Yeah.
All of that being said, I think that's what makes the fight. That's why he's so scary. Because you can be the best version of yourself, but if he's the best version of himself and just catches you in that weird way that you weren't expecting, because it's not like he just comes in and hits you with the right hand. Like it's not like a Wilder situation. He comes in and out of nowhere flying knees you.
He does front flip off the back of the cage.
He does ridiculous athletic feats that you don't see coming, that you can't really train for, that he just comes at you with. So, and there's also, of course, the huge takedown risk that he's just going to wrestle you to the ground and hold you down.
That's what I was going to ask you. I don't want to stop your train of thought, but do you think he's going to utilize wrestling in this fight? Because for context, he hasn't in the past 4 fights. Maybe even more.
I think he's probably going to not make that call until the 3rd round. I think he's going to see if he can catch Alessandra in the first 2 with something big. And I think if you get to the 3rd round and it's clear that he's down on points, I could see him going that route. Because I think he wants the title. I think he just wants the title bad. And I think he knows, that's probably his best way to win. Is either he catches him with something explosive or he spends 3 rounds holding him down on the ground.
If he makes weight.
And that's the biggest if here. If he shows up and makes weight.
Because he doesn't get that allowance, he has to make championship weight.
Yep.
Yeah, so
which has been another one of his long list of struggles. And
so, all right, so a lot of this I mean, I've already made it well known I'm not the biggest fan of Yoel Romero. I don't know him as a person. He seems like an all right guy. I'm sure out of the octagon, he's probably like a perfect individual. I saw the
Oh yeah.
podcast and I've heard him in interviews, and he seems like he's very hard working, comes from humble beginnings. I'm not making any statements on his character or who he is as a human being. Love to have a beer with the guy, but I hate watching his fights. I know I'm probably in the minority, and this is I love all kinds of fighting, except for his style of fighting pisses me off so much. It's this uh, how do I want to say, he has this yes, he has the ability to turn it on whenever he wants, but it's clear that he has cardio issues, and I think
Oh yeah.
that's why he hasn't been attempting takedowns, because as we all know, wrestling's hard. He knows that. He's a world champion wrestler.
Yeah.
Wrestling's hard, guys. So he doesn't want to do that, and he knows that he can end the fight with one shot. Cool.
There's a legitimate possibility he can't wrestle for 3 rounds.
That's my point.
That is also a possibility here.
So he has adapted this strategy of do nothing, move back and forth slightly, move all the time. So when he gets hit, even when he's rocked, it doesn't look like he's rocked, and he plays it up really well. And when he he like stumbles forward while throwing punches, and it's super clumsy, and it makes me angry because if I were in there with someone, I'm trying to think of a really good analogy. It's okay. It's like the tortoise and the hare, but the hare is trying the whole time. And then but the tortoise was already at the finish line, and it just wakes up, like the tortoise is like, "Oh shit, I could just go." It's like, dude, you didn't do shit for 3 rounds. You didn't you threw two significant strikes, and then you catch him in the fourth round. Like, I'm glad that he's been exposed for that. Not that everybody can do it, but at the elite level, we've seen whether your take on it or not, Whitaker beat him twice. The first time with no knees, or with no knee. And then the second fight, like, he rocked. No one talks about it because everybody's like, "Oh, the damage he did," which fine. I actually had Whitaker winning that second fight. Again, this is probably my bias coming in here. And I understand that Whitaker got rocked, but he rocked Yoel too. He landed a head kick. He landed some good shots, and that's when we've seen Yoel start to wrestle lately. When he gets hit hard and he is made to be uncomfortable in the octagon, he starts to go back to his wrestling. And he has this, it's the laziest thing I've ever, that's what really frustrates me is I know he works hard. I'm not saying he's a lazy person. And I'm also not saying he's not an insane athlete with good cardio, because he could whoop my ass and then the rest
Yeah.
of like my entire heritage. Like, he could just take on everybody seemingly forever. Fine. But the way he fights, man, it's so lazy. It's so lazy. It's the exact opposite of Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz is constant output, constant output. Or Frankie Edgar, constant output. I'm going to outwork you. I'm going to show you that I belong in here and that you don't. And over 5 rounds, like, if you hold your chin straight and you don't have if you don't have sound defense and you want to play the distance game, he's going to catch you eventually. But if you stay on him and you push him back, like, you can beat him, and it's been done.
Oh yeah. And speaking of, I think it will also get done this weekend.
Yeah,
I am, as much as there is that chance, I'm firmly in the camp of Stylebender's going to win this fight. And I think a large part of why people are worried about Yoel Romero, I don't think people realize Stylebender isn't as small as he looks on camera.
he's like 4 inches taller than him.
I know, like, I think people have this idea that Stylebender isn't like a big guy. Like,
Sorry, 3 inches
and I know
taller
that's
than.
been and I know that's been pointed out a couple of times to like different folks, especially during the John Jones get like the possibility of him fighting John Jones, which I'll be
Whatever.
aside, whatever. That's not an issue. But Stylebender isn't a small middleweight. Like, he's not a small middleweight.
No,
So he's going to come in there with serious reach, and he's shown, you know, he can bang with people that want to come at him.
that's what I'm worried
And
about.
well, and I don't. And Yoel Romero isn't going to come at him like Kelvin Gastelum did.
I
He's
hope.
not going to
Well,
have the
he
he's
can't.
not going to have that type of output. He's not
No,
capable of it. So
no.
I
All he
I think
does
he gets
is
picked apart.
he throws one shot, and if it hurts you, he throws more. If not, he sits back and waits. If he then he'll wait, he'll throw one shot or two. If it hurts, if he lands and he can tell that it hurt you, he throws more. And I
He
can understand the counter argument to me saying it's lazy. It's like, well, that's a smart way to fight for his style, and clearly it works for him. And like, yes, the same thing with Deontay Wilder. I understand that. Um,
I
but
think the I think the
okay,
biggest risk I think the biggest risk to Stylebender in this fight is the referee.
what do you mean?
Because if he gets caught and Yoel Romero
Oh,
sells it in a way that it looks worse than it is, I think that's the biggest risk to Stylebender. Like if I mean, there's always that risk, referees stopping something early. I think that would be the biggest thing, just because Yoel has that presence that he can do that serious damage. I think there's that potential.
yeah. I mean, it's in Vegas, so I'm
You
not
would
worried
hope.
about the judges as much, and I'm also not worried about the commission as much.
That would be my biggest worry for the fight
They'll
is an
probably have
early
they'll probably have
stoppage.
Herb or
They
Mark
have to.
Goddard in there.
Yeah. But I mean, even the best make mistakes.
Of course. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, like I'm not
That
worried about that
it's a
so much.
hard thing, but that'd be my biggest worry for this fight is Yoel catching him and it getting stopped early. But there's
Yeah,
also the possibility that Yoel catches him and just cleanly takes him out. Just
yeah, anything can happen in a fight. This one I cannot be objective about this one at all. Like I'm rooting for Adesanya. I love his story, and I do not like how Yoel Romero has performed in the octagon, and like I'm not a fan of his fight style, and I don't believe that he's going to make the division stronger. Like I don't think that people are going to have to rise up and change their fight style. I could sit here and complain and be a negative Nancy about it all I want, but really I'm just rooting for Adesanya, like
all right.
hardcore.
And honestly, like I don't think I don't think I have as much against Yoel as you do. I think you have a little bit more of a anti-Yoel bias, but
Yeah,
I mean, objectively, just looking at this fight, if
it's
they
the
were to
Tim
fight,
Kennedy fight, dude. It's the Tim
that's
Kennedy
I know.
fight,
I
forever
think
and ever,
I
always
think
and
if you ran
forever.
this fight 10 times in a simulation, Stylebender wins 7 or 8 of those times.
Okay, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
I actually
that's
put it 9 out of 10. I think,
I,
um, given
it might, and that
his
honestly might be it. It might be 9 out of 10, but
it's
at the
his
very
technical
least,
prowess.
yeah,
He's so good, and the camp, like I said last time, that city boxing, that the city kickboxing camp. Holy crap, man! They are they are freaking wizards, and they make they make other people. I say they because they're a team down there, and they clearly all do it. It's not just Adesanya. Adesanya is obviously an insanely gifted athlete. That's I'm not saying he's not, and I'm not giving all the credit to his team. What I'm saying is like it all comes together, and you could see it when um, they beat Max Holloway, right?
yep.
It was the leg kick game, and like these fights a couple weekends ago down in Auckland, all the fighters from that camp. There was a couple fights where, you know, their fighters were getting taken down, or they were taken out of their game plan, and they were still able to make up for it. They have a very very good camp, and he is an excellent fighter with great ring IQ. I don't see
Yeah,
I don't
it's
see I don't honestly I don't see how Yoel wins outside of a flash KO. Even so, and this is why I say that because I don't think he's going for a takedown unless he's hurt. And
I don't think he can even win if he tried to take down. I think if he tried to out wrestle Alessandre, I think he gasses out before he can win enough rounds.
Adesanya he is
Yeah,
something else. He does have his takedown defense has gotten better, and even it wasn't terrible when he came in. It was okay. It was pretty good. He was able to keep people off of him. He did what he needed to do.
yep.
Yeah,
Hmm?
I'm picking Adesanya, and it's a mostly emotional pick, but also slightly because of technique and
I'm also picking him slightly more objectively than you, but also with a little bit of bias. I'll be
uh,
honest. So
all right.
I want to throw an idea at you because I texted you about it. I had an idea for judging system.
Oh yeah, yeah, you didn't explain it. I wanted you to
Okay.
explain it. Okay.
So I would expand it to, and this could get a little weird. I'd expand it to a system that used 6 judges. Now, 3 of the judges are the ones actually scoring the rounds, but the other 3 judges are essentially grading the fighter's performance in different areas of the sport. And before the rounds are scored, the judges scoring the rounds receive essentially the grades from the other judges. All right, so just to break that down even further, I'll just throw like an example in there. So you have the first round of a fight, and you have a judge taking everything into account involving the striking game, just purely focused on that. That's all they're looking at. That's all they're grading the fighter on. You have another judge looking at wrestling, takedowns, or some striking on the ground. Then you have another judge purely looking at jujitsu. And each of those judges just purely looking at those aspects of that round decide like, all right, either my specialty wasn't a factor. If no one got taken down, then it's pretty much just NA. It was no factor. But if that was some factor of the round, they decide, all right, you know, based on looking at it from who was actually in the advantage, who was actually doing what they should have been doing, this is how they performed in this area during that round. And then the 3 judges actually scoring that round just take a look at, okay, based on this and based on what we saw in the round, that is how we're going to score it.
Huh. Okay. I mean, when you initially said that, I thought it was going to be similar to how uh this is going to be a weird example, but I remember I had to time I was at a swim meet and they have timers, right? For each lane they have a time they have like 3 or 4 timers. So then everybody keeps time just for that lane and then they throw out the extraneous one, right? So if they're all like really close, then they just throw out the one that's furthest away. But it's usually really easy. Like, oh, someone
Mm-hmm.
started too early or ended too early, started too late, that kind of thing, and theirs is off by like a second compared to everybody else's. And it's like, oh, dude, okay, throw that one out, write the other ones down.
Yeah.
So,
Now, mine is from the perspective of there's too much going on for a judge to be looking at all aspects of it and trying to decide that. I think the judges that are actually scoring it should instead just look at it, you know, take into account what they're seeing, but then still be receiving some sort of report or some sort of breakout from people that are looking at specific aspects of the game and saying, all right, from this aspect, this person clearly was doing better from striking perspective. This person clearly had more shots, more significant strikes, knockdowns, whatever it may be, and then their takedown, like all those aspects of it, just all of that taken into account and going into the score, rather than judges just sitting there trying to take it all in and then purely go off of what they saw.
hmm, I don't know. I don't know how that would affect like their scoring. I think
And also, I think on top of that,
they
I
should
would,
have like a 30-point scoring
yeah, it would,
system.
and that's where I was going to go with it. It would move away from it being a you know 10-point scoring system. You have 10 points for each of those sections.
You know what we really need, and I'm being honest. Like the best way is just to get hard data. So try it out in a smaller one of the like Titan FC. Put sensors in the goddamn gloves. Let me know how much force is getting like every significant shot, and then we can pinpoint exactly where that person got hit, and then we have evidence and actual numbers of how much output.
Just
Well,
internal
because
heart rate monitors to see who's actually working harder.
no. So work rate doesn't. doesn't apply for like just because
Yeah.
fitness level doesn't apply. Neither, and I don't want your physical qualities to affect the judge's score, which includes taking a shot. If 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 I hit you with the same force that you hit me with, it's the exact, right? It's 100
Hmm.
pounds of force, right? We both hit each other, but I had you hit me in the and we both this for this odd example, but you hit me in the exact same spot. But I can't take a shot as well as you can, and maybe I have a more expressive face and I have lighter skin tone, and I show like what if like all of a sudden I start swelling, like I'm a little bit more wobbly and I make a grimace on my face. But I hit you with that exact same punch and you make none of those things and your body doesn't react to it at all. Does that mean you did more damage to me? It,
I gotta disagree with you on that. I think that maybe shouldn't be an important aspect, especially from like just cosmetic features of who looks the most fucked up.
well,
But
that's what I'm saying. If
but
being
like if
rocked and not
but
being
if
able
I
to fight back is a different thing. But
oh
if
yeah.
what I'm saying is like just because if I make a noise, that doesn't. Why does that change how hard you hit me? It doesn't. And
I see where you're going at with it.
the judging's already subjective, or yeah, it's already subjective enough. We can watch the exact same thing and give two different opinions, and they're both right. It's already subjective. Why are we putting more subjectivity into it like it's a goddamn soccer game and we're like guys need to take acting lessons and learn how to like play up fouls and play down getting hurt? It's like putting a tough face on and acting like you're not hurt so you can throw off the opponent so they don't continue to attack that spot that's hurt. Great game plan, very smart. But to also fool the judge, like the judges shouldn't be score like, especially if you have a lot of scar tissue. Like Nate Diaz gets cut up every damn fight. Frankie Edgar's nose bleeds. If you high five him too hard, like his nose is gonna bleed. Like so, like there there's certain fighters that have physical qualities that don't affect their ability to fight going forward and aren't gonna make them less effective, but still look like they received more damage than they did. And
And I wouldn't mind, and I think something that you're hitting on, which should also be standardized across the board, is what judges should be looking for in terms of what makes someone be winning a fight. Like I think that needs to be outlined more clearly. Like
yeah,
what are they specifically judging on, and basically like what is their justification for it, and that needs to be standardized because that very clearly is not standardized.
like the closer, so I think everybody can agree that the suspense at the end of a fight to figure out like who won, it's kind of cool. But if you take a step back away from the pageantry and the excitement of the actual moment of that event, and you can take a step back and really look at what's happening here, you've had two guys who couldn't finish each other in a fight. So there's no one of them could not definitively show that they
Yeah.
won via making the other person quit in one way or another. But they both put out however much effort they were going to. They did as much damage as they did. Those things we can all quantify.
Yep.
We can quantify all of that. So why why don't we? Let's quantify
Hmm.
all of it. The closer, this sounds so silly, but the closer it gets to a UFC video game, the better it's going to be, because if we didn't have to have judges and it was literally just like a meter on the side that like if you reach
Yeah.
a
Just
thousand points, you win this round. Like whatever. Because they're still going to be fighting for a knockout anyway.
and
Like you can
and that
still
could
end a
also
fight.
and that could also be how we end up, fixing that system is actually creating a point system,
Yeah.
just a flat out straight point system. For if you are doing this, this is how you gain points.
Yeah,
For
a
takedown aspect,
100%.
even on the jiu-jitsu aspect, time spent in a dominant position can equal some sort of fashion of points. Would
Yeah, so the 10-point must system keeps fights closer than they might like they should be, but it kind of prevents people from being too biased.
Mhm.
Because the biggest swing you're going to see is a 2-point swing, which I understand in a 3-round fight, that's a big deal. But you're not going to see like a 10-4 like that. You're just not going to see that. So,
Why not?
well, well, given the current context that we have, given the current standings of the judges and how much information they have on MMA and
Yeah,
everything else, I don't want them giving out 10-4s
no,
because
they should. But when we remove state officials out that have nothing to do with the business and actually put professional judges in,
that would be fantastic.
yeah, then
So
we start talking
I
about,
do like your idea with scoring. So having 3 different people looking specifically at something, and you
or
could
at least
even, well, I would say at least 2. I would go with like a grappling, like a grappling specialist, someone who's really like Eddie Bravo, someone who's
yeah,
looking for, because he did this. Like the reason I brought
yeah,
him up is because he used to do this for the UFC. He had an entire system where he would grade everybody round by round, everything he did, and then he would that's how he would score it. So he has practice doing that, and his specialty is grappling. And then you get someone in there who's like a really big fan of kickboxing, like
yeah. Just Joe
um,
Schilling. I'll just throw
what?
that one in there.
Well, Joe Schilling, but I was gonna say Dan Hardy.
Yeah,
Dan Hardy hates when
or Dan
people go
Hardy.
to the
Yeah,
ground. Like every single fight, when like they're talking about who's winning and stuff, he's like, "Well, he's hitting him a lot more." He's like, "Dan, he's been on his back the entire fight." Yeah, I understand that.
yeah. But just having someone to translate that to judges in some sort of fashion, so that they understand, like, from the perspective of this is what happened in the fight. Or if you want to just cut it out, I like what you brought up in terms of actually creating a point system
Yeah, I honestly
and
believe,
an objective, straight up point system.
I
Yeah,
honestly believe that if you tech up the sport, okay, maybe even try it in like the amateur, like they don't have the money for it. Use it. Oh, here's an idea. Use it in the goddamn Ultimate Fighter, the Tuesday Night Contender Series.
yeah,
Start putting tech in the gloves. Like it can be soft material. They make material like sensors that can measure force, like impact force. They make them out of soft material. So it's not going to like put something in the glove that's going to like damage the other person or the person wearing it. They can do that. They can put accelerometers on uh
is it going to be transmitting? So my biggest concern now for this would be, what if something breaks, because it is also smashing into things constantly.
oh, no. Okay, that this is why we have a testing period. So we just
Okay.
test out the materials and see what kind of data we're getting back. If it turns out that the data that we're getting back isn't useful at all, or it's not correlating strongly with what we're actually seeing. You know what I mean? Like it might say it was a hard punch, but that guy wasn't rocked and it doesn't really affect things.
Or
Maybe we could look into that. But
yeah,
give me numbers. Like so I come from here. Here's the biggest difference for me, and this is my personal experience. So I grew up. I fell in love with bodybuilding. I started competitive bodybuilding right when I got out of the military. I did my first show when I was 21, and that was my thing. And it wasn't until I was really deep into it, even though I understood it and I understand everything that was going on, I still didn't. There was no part of me that like took a step back and was like, "Oh, wait a minute. Like I could be the best. I could be in the best shape of my life and be in better shape than everybody, and someone could just not like the way I look. It's completely subjective. There's nothing objective about this."
yeah,
To what I do now, so I'm competing. Like I have a strongman competition in April coming up. There's no subjectivity. Either you lifted the fucking stone and put it up, or you didn't. Right? You lifted that car X amount of times. The only subjectivity is whether or not like you might have locked something out, but you can easily watch that back on a replay in like the higher level events that are funded, you know?
yep.
You can watch that back on replay and either count it or not, right? We're trying to get the more subjectivity you enter into a sport, the less professional
Yeah,
it is. Like if it's something like if it's something completely opinion based, man, is there even a sport anymore?
No, that's fair. And
Like,
I think that will also there's some potential ways to where you can work out an objective point system to where it can influence the sport for the better. Similar to how essentially EBI rules make it more active, especially at the end.
yeah, because it's
The
submission
way,
only, and
yeah.
yes,
So without making it knockout or submission only, but when you have a point system to where if it's not looking like you're gonna, you know, you're going into it wanting to get the most points. Like you can't just put it on for 2 rounds and maybe have an all right, or you can't just put it on for 1 round, you know, have 1 round that's iffy and then shit the bed for the other round and still end up winning. Like you have to really try and run up points on the other person. I think it
yeah.
could potentially do more active, more engaging fights.
All I hear is crying from upstairs.
Yeah. Is everything all right?
Oh no, it's fine. They're kids. Like someone probably stole something or hurt the other one's feelings or pushed the other one off a bed. They're kids. And then everything that happens is the end of the world. So it's just like, I can't believe this one thing. Ah. And like they have to let you know about it too. So like if you close their door, they'll come open it so that they can hear so you can hear them yelling still.
Hold on, you can't hear how hard I'm crying right now.
Why is nobody reacting to this? Ah! Anywho,
Wow.
yeah, I agree. If there's a set point, see, I don't want to make it quite that much. Um, oh,
Well,
side
it can
note.
be.
Okay, go ahead,
It
go
can
ahead.
also go into like it doesn't have to be set points. It can also be fractions of points accumulated over.
No, no, no. What I mean is I don't want like a set finish number.
No. It can be. You can. And similar to like wrestling, you can run up points on someone.
Yeah, but then you could have a tech fall. Like wrestling has a definitive end. Like if you're up by more than 15 points, you get a tech.
I mean, that might not be the worst thing in the UFC too. And in some situations, I don't
Oh
see that
yeah.
being as likely, but like for fighters' health too, that might not be the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, if there's a clear mismatch, like that Kovalevich fight,
Yeah,
I
if you get a
commented
clear
about it.
mismatch, but someone just isn't getting knocked out, like, you
Dude,
know what? Tech fall.
did you see the picture? I reposted it on Twitter. One of her eyes, like her eyes are like this.
Yeah.
It's like, and again, anything could happen, blah, 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 like with one punch, right? The worst case scenario is this punch ends your life. Is it possible? Yes. Is it highly unlikely? Also, yes. Right. Best case scenario is that punch does absolutely nothing to you. Okay, and then there's a whole gambit of like intervals in between. If you are showing no ability to stop your opponent from hitting you,
I
and
mean,
you're
then you're
clearly
not defending yourself.
compromised,
Yeah.
yeah, well, you could still be intelligently defending yourself, but you're clearly just not able to do it. And I said this before, it just might not be your night. Whether what you ate, who you're fighting, your relationship, what time of day you're fighting. It could be any of a million factors. There's a ton of variables that go into fighting. It could be any of them, and it's just not your night. Okay, and I feel bad that this wasn't your night, but I feel a lot worse watching you lose years off your life, taking extra brain damage that you don't have to because your fucking coach isn't doing their goddamn job. That pisses me off to no end. I'm not saying like those people who like if Yoel Romero's corner didn't want to throw in the towel because he was, they're waiting for that puncher's chance in a title fight. Maybe there's some leeway depending on how the fight was going. But in a lower level fight, this goes to your point. Like maybe a tech fall wouldn't be a bad idea. Like in a lower level, like lower ranking fight or unranked, two
Yeah.
unranked fighters. Okay, So there's no title. It's not necessarily title contention stuff. It's a 3-rounder, not a main event. And
But
you
if you
guys are
got one guy
making.
coming in Stylebender size, or like with Stylebender's level of like, oh, I'm gonna walk in here and be a champion, but it's his first fight in the UFC and he's going up against Joe Schmo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
might not be the worst thing to have a time.
dude, Joe Schmo can still beat up half the UFC roster. You
Yeah,
don't know, like some of these fighters are just they're just so far ahead. I mean, it's not Derek Brunson's a really good fighter. Israel Adesanya made him look like a goddamn clown. Look what he did to Whitaker. Whitaker like ran roughshod through the goddamn division, and he was
yeah.
like he beat like he was an
Wasn't he
undersized
9 and
guy.
0 at one point? Like he,
Yeah, he was smoking everybody. And
yeah,
this and Adesanya made him look silly. Okay? Like Adesanya is just a special guy, and sometimes you're gonna get that at the like two guys are gonna come to the UFC. One of them's gonna be way ahead of the other one. It's not to say that that other guy can't catch up, or maybe his fighting style or when he started fighting, maybe they balance out. You know, maybe 5 years from now, one of those guys took a lot more damage and he hasn't aged very well in the sport, but the other dude's style is catching up and he's gradually increased level, and now they caught up. So maybe they could have a fight down the road. But you know what's not going to help that? You taking a ton of brain damage for 3 rounds that you don't need to when you're
yeah.
clearly outmatched. I understand that the fighter doesn't want to quit, and they shouldn't. That's how they became fighters in the first place. You gonna tell me?
That's why you have a tech fall.
Yeah,
Because then it's not a
yeah,
coach throwing in the towel. Then it's not
and
the
they don't have
fighter. It's
to.
just, oh, you know what?
You lost
Yeah, you
points.
just you lost. Yeah, that would
I'm,
basically be like, yeah, shouldn't have left it to the judges. Shouldn't have let the point differential get so big. I should have done
yeah,
more
that's
to
it.
stay in the game.
That is
Yeah, that would
that is literally
that would be the
all
response.
on you. That is all on you. There is
Yep.
no subjectivity in that at all, and I love that. I've been saying that word a lot, but I mean it.
Yeah.
Subjectivity ruins sports. All sports. I mean,
Yep.
they're trying out in something like the AAA or AA, maybe even single A ball. They're trying out an electronic like umpire,
Okay.
like an
Good.
actual measuring device
I
instead
don't
of some
understand why they haven't done that like
because it's
years ago.
baseball.
Yeah.
Dude, they just put up a pitch clock like last year. They were allowed to like stand there, like pick their butt, call their girlfriend
Yeah.
for like 20
Eat
minutes
their
before
roid
every
gummies. You know.
yeah, go get some more pine tar to throw behind their ear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, no, so
Anyway.
there is a good argument for that. That's
Yeah.
yeah, maybe there could be such a large point differential that you could just lose,
Here's
and
a good point in actual. Yeah. Yeah.
we could see shorter fights too. Like I know I like watching fights, but 6 hours every Saturday, that's a lot. And that's just for the UFC. That's
Yeah.
not one. That's not me watching Bellator as well or watching boxing. Just the UFC. If I want to watch every UFC fight, 6 hours every Saturday.
Yeah. I agree though. I like what you're saying with it just being straight objective point system that is laid out that every fighter knows, that every fighter can train to and understand the concept of, work into their game plan, so they both know exactly how they're both going to get judged by the point system. There's no confusion about it. Yeah. At the end of the day, still, there's going to be people that bitch and moan about it when they lose, but that's reality. Ultimately, you know ahead of time how to win and how not to win.
Yeah. You're not waiting on someone
So you
else's
can't just be like,
vision
oh,
or
shouldn't
opinion.
have left it to the judges. It's, oh, I should have showed up tonight. It puts more on the fighter.
And it's not even it yes, there's also that like when someone's effort isn't 100% there, but it's also just like, dude, maybe it wasn't your night. You got teched. Yeah, that's a good. You
Yep.
know what? I like that. That's a good idea. Let's do that right now.
Yeah.
Let's go.
All
Let's
right.
go to the.
Let's write it
Let's
up.
go to Las Vegas this weekend.
Oh,
Let's put together a point scoring system and then
all
like
right,
hand it
dude.
into the judges. Oh, there's okay. So that's not the
Well,
only.
unfortunately, I have to get up at 4 a.m. So I know
Dang
I'm on the
it!
Mark Wahlberg schedule.
Mark Wahlberg schedule.
I don't know. He gets up at 4 a.m.
I wouldn't have gone with him. I would probably go with like Jocko or
What?
like
Froze that. Your face just froze at skeptical eyes looking at me.
or The Rock. Why didn't you pick The Rock? Why'd you pick Mark Wahlberg?
I don't know.
Goof.
This is the first thing that came to mind. I watched the other guys like a week ago, so
I
although they're
watched that
actually
movie
both in
like
that movie. Yeah.
I watch that movie like probably 3 or 4 times a year. I love that movie. All right, let's do a little add-on here. Okay, so we didn't get to all the fights. Yeah, he ended up going. I already broke down the main event, and I'm picking Adesanya. A lot of it's emotional for me. I've already broken down why it's emotional, but like I cannot pick that like objectively. I have to pick Adesanya for that one. The co-main event. So this one I really wanted to get to. I'm kind of upset that we didn't, but Wiley Zhang versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Why is everybody saying that Wiley's going to knock Joanna out? I'm not saying it's not going to happen. Of course that can happen. But why is that everybody's first response? Like, do you remember the fight she had with Tisha Torres? I mean, I know Tisha's tough, but that was a 3-round kind of like, not back and forth necessarily. And Wiley obviously can improve and all those other things. But she's not a. I mean, let's just pull up the record so I can just make sure I'm not totally out of line saying this stuff. Do. Her nickname is Magnum? Cool. Are these her only fights in the UFC? Was Tisha? No. No. Oh, she fought Danielle Taylor. Okay, yeah. Danielle Taylor. No slouch. Decent fighter, but not at the level of a lot of these straw weights. Jessica Aguilar. Submission via armbar. Okay. I mean, so Danielle Taylor was a unanimous decision. Jessica Aguilar was a submission via armbar. That was a decent win. Good opponent. Fine. Tisha Torres decision over 3 rounds, and then the Jessica Andrade fight. I don't know if that's the best marker for her going forward. Is judging how that fight went. Yeah, all of this to say is like I don't know who Wiley Zhang is, and I don't think any of us do, unless you are a huge fan and you've been watching her like her entire career, and you know that she has the ability to knock everyone out. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that carries over to the UFC though. When we've seen that from fighters time and time again, they're still excellent fighters. They're in the UFC. Most of the time, that means you're a pretty damn good fighter. It's just whatever about your skill set, it doesn't carry over to the UFC, or maybe just the caliber of opponent that you're facing in the UFC, and they're able to neutralize some of your game. So Wiley Zhang is fantastic. I'm not saying she's not a good fighter. She's awesome, and the way she stopped Andrade, she just went bananas. She just did not stop. Yeah, that was impressive, and I won't take anything away from her for that. That performance was fantastic. Definitely deserves to be the champ. I mean, she got that title shot because they booked a fight in China, and they were like, "Well, we need a hometown girl. Like this girl's on a win streak. Let's give her a shot." Even though I wouldn't necessarily say that she was the most deserving. Not that she didn't deserve a title shot, but she wasn't the most deserving. I would say, because I don't think she was ranked like in the top 5 before that fight. But the way she stopped Andrade, it doesn't matter. Now that brings us to this weekend, where we have Joanna coming off of, I'd say like a fantastic performance against the karate hottie, Michelle Waterson. It's a great performance. I wouldn't. I hate using the word vintage because I don't think anybody ever goes back to being the same person they were, nor does anybody go back to being the same fighter that they ever were. I think she showed her skill set against a challenging opponent who has not a very complimentary game to her own. That fight was, oh no, maybe yeah, it was complimentary. It was someone who wanted to stand there and point fight with her, and Joanna took it to her. She showed her that like she was much better at that. That was great, and I think coming into this fight, if she's on weight and she doesn't have a problem with that weight cut, and if we're to believe that all of the emotional stuff is or was true, that all the emotional stuff is going to play a factor, meaning that it's all over with and she's focused and ready to go. Cool. I might pick Weili Zhang in this fight. I give her an edge. I think she's strong. She's built like a tank, just like Andrade. She's got that stocky, really muscular build, but she has cardio. And Andrade kind of has cardio too, but she still fades. And I've never seen Zhang in the 5th round, so I guess I don't know. But I know she has decent cardio for her build. And that's the big thing is Joanna's offense and her game it snowballs. Like once it gets rolling, it gets stronger, and then her opponents start to fade. She really picks it up, and then she's able to do more of what she wants. If Zhang doesn't let her do that and is able to keep up with her, I mean, we could have a good back and forth fight. Because if you remember, Joanna versus Andrade wasn't a one-sided fight in the first couple of rounds. Like Andrade was able to get on the inside and kind of throw Joanna around a little bit. Cool. If you can keep that up for 5 rounds, like we've got a real fight here. What if she keeps it up for 3 rounds? What if Zhang can do this for 3 rounds, wins those first 3, unless there's a stoppage or some crazy crap happens the last 2 rounds, she can still win. So she doesn't even have to necessarily keep the pace for 5 rounds either, which is something that people always say, like, oh, can they keep the pace for 5 rounds? You don't have to. You just, especially at these lighter weight classes where knockouts don't happen that often. That being said, Zhang just knocked out Andrade, but like knockouts aren't the most common. Obviously, it's just physics. The amount of mass getting thrown at your face isn't as much as heavyweights. It's just physics. So the stakes are a little bit lower. So if you can dominate the first 3 rounds and get up, 30-27, all you have to do is survive the last 2. That's it. And Joanna's not a threat on the ground. She hasn't shown that really. She doesn't want to be there. She doesn't really go for takedowns. All you got to do is stay on the outside. You could just get on your bike and run the last 2 rounds. So Zhang doesn't even need to have 5-round cardio. She needs to have 3-round cardio. And she needs to be able to put it on her for 3 rounds. Yeah, that's it. So I'm gonna give it to Zhang. Yeah, you know what? I think this one's gonna be a decision. I think Joanna has enough in her to keep Zhang off. I think it's gonna be. I'm hoping for a good fight. Like I'm always hoping for a good fight. The flash knockout's fantastic as well, but I'm always, especially when it's like a striker like Joanna, someone who's very technical. I always love seeing a long, drawn-out fight where they're able to really display that. I like that a lot. So that's what I'm hoping for. So maybe it's clouding my judgment a little bit. But yeah, I think it's probably going to go to a decision. Yeah, I can see that. A decision and then Zhang picks it up. Yeah, I don't know why everybody thinks Zhang's just going to go out there and knock out Joanna. It could happen. Of course it could happen. And I could look like a total ass. I'm fine. But like she's had 1 knockout in the UFC, 2 decisions, and 1 armbar. Like she hasn't displayed so much power, like overwhelmingly, in her first 3 fights in the UFC. Like I think it's not the Betch Correia thing so much because obviously Zhang is, I'd say, far more talented than Betch Correia. Bethe Correia was a hype job. Yeah, going after like the four horsewomen, blah blah blah, Shayna Baszler and all them. Like, and then I remember in the promos for her, like she's got legitimate one punch knockout power. No, she doesn't. She's never knocked out anybody with one punch. And you just don't see that very often in any of the female divisions. It's very rare. I mean, actually, in any of the weight classes, like under lightweight, really, it gets harder and to knock someone out. You just don't have as much mass. And it still happens, but it's much less common, I think. So anyway, I'll take Zhang via decision. Oh, see, you got Beneil Dariush coming back against Drakkar Klose. I know nothing about the other guy, but I mean, it's hard. It's hard for me to bet against Beneil Dariush. I know nothing about Drakkar Klose though, or Klose. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Oh, Neil Magny's fighting on this card. Sweet. Against Li Jingliang or Liang. Was that the guy who was? Huh. So Neil Magny always has a problem with specialists. Like if he goes against like a really good striker, a very technical guy, he has problems. Or if he goes against someone who's excellent at wrestling, he has problems. Or if he goes against someone who, did he lose to Cal? I think he might have won that fight against Calvin Gastelum. Anyway, but yeah, he loses to specialists. But if he goes against someone who's well-rounded and is kind of like a true like mixed martial artist, and they don't have like one skill set that they're like so far and away better than him at, he tends to do really well. And I mean, Lee, I think from what I remember of him, he's pretty much just a brawler. I think if Neil can, I think Neil can get this one done. I got Cowboy Oliveira versus Max Griffin. That's probably just gonna be a slugfest. I'm not even gonna call that. I have no idea. That's literally been two guys just swinging for the fences like all the time. Yeah, no way. I can't. No way. You got Edmund Shabazian versus Derek Brunson. That's rough for Brunson, man. If he loses this one, that looks really bad. I mean, Edmund Shabazian has showed a lot of technical skills in the octagon so far, but Brunson is getting no favors. I mean, I know that whole the hype between him or the beef between him and Adesanya led to like a good fight. So I'm not saying it's bad. I like that a lot. That was actually a lot of fun. The fight was good too. It really put Adesanya more on people's radar because everybody knows how good Derek Brunson is. But he made Derek Brunson look so sloppy. And that's what I'm worried about in this fight. Derek Brunson's a really good wrestler too, so I think that could be the X factor here. If Brunson can keep his wits about him and really go for some takedowns against Edmund and make him fight a little dirtier and not fight his fight, the one that he wants, this could be interesting. Oh, all of that, never mind, it was canceled. I'm an idiot. Oh, Sugar Sean O'Malley's back. That's right. I remember seeing him. Gerald Mearshart versus Deron Wynn. I have no idea. Yeah, I don't have enough to call any of these, but Sean O'Malley, I'm excited to see him back. I am. Fun guy to watch in the octagon. I'm never a fan of people being overly hyped early on in their UFC career. It's a pet peeve of mine when someone comes along and everybody acts like they're the best thing since sliced bread and that we've never seen a fighter like this before and all that other stuff when they haven't been really tested. And then they go up against... That was part of the problem I had with Adesanya. Like, he was one of those hype jobs. Like, he was, the hype train was going strong. And what really turned that around for me is when he fought Derek Brunson. Then everything after that, smooth sailing. Like, that he deserves all the credit he's receiving, because that took a lot It takes a lot to make Derek Brunson look like that. I mean, if you remember back when Brunson fought Yoel Romero, that was a gritty fight. And Yoel didn't look so great in that fight. I mean, he won. Did Yoel get taken down? Like, my point is, Brunson's a really good fighter, man. Really good. And when that was a good test for Adesanya. But before that, I understand the idea the idea behind pumping up a fighter, building their brand. Ugh, I hate that word. But building their persona and, putting some promotional power and weight behind that fighter. Because they could be the next Conor McGregor. Chances are they're not going to be, but they could be, So if they do it properly, you can end up with another, marketing superstar. So I understand why they do it, but it is so grating. Like, I remember when they did it with Ngannou. They're like, oh, this guy's so good. Look how good his boxing is, and look at how good this is, and oh, he's going to kill everyone in the division. Stipe didn't give a shit about any of that. Like, oh, you hit real hard? Cool beans. So do I. Also, you're on your ass. Like, he just took him down and beat the crap out of him for 5 rounds. And I'm not saying Ngannou isn't good, and he learned from that. That's what I'm saying. Like, he had a test. He failed that test, but he learned from his failure. Awesome. And like, the test for Adesanya was Derek Brunson. He passed that test with flying colors. Yeah, man. So when someone like Sugar Sean O'Malley comes along with these highlights from before he got in, and everyone's like, oh, he's the next one, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, here we go again. I guess for a casual fan, or, yeah, like, I guess for a casual fan, or some people, maybe that's exciting for them, and maybe I'm just being sour for no reason. But for me, it's kind of great. It grates on me quite a bit. Like, having to sit through those promos and listening to how, like, someone's the next big thing. Because I've seen it hundreds of times. And most of them are not the next big thing. Most of them are decent fighters who just, they either, win some, lose some, and then get cut, or, they're career journeymen with nothing to turn your nose up at. These guys are working their ass off, doing what they love or what they have to pay the bills, working hard for their families, whatever. I'm not putting any one of them down. It's just the process of listening to, like, oh man, this guy's going to come in and destroy everyone. Everybody line up. He's ready to take the division by storm. And then he gets knocked out, or he has glaring weaknesses that have not been tested because he's a wrestler and he's only fought guys who can't stop takedowns. And then the first person who can stop a takedown is like, oh shit. Yeah. That's the only thing that I have against Sugar Sean O'Malley. And to be honest, like, that's not even his fault. That's no fighter's fault. If they want to play into it a little bit and build themselves up, that's awesome. That's how that's how you make it in the UFC these days. So that's fine. But all of that being said, I enjoy him. Like, I think he's an interesting fighter. Yeah, he's fun to watch. So I'm excited to see that. I don't have picks for the rest of the card. I don't even want to. Like, I know Gerald Meerschaert, and I do know of Deron Winn, but I can't think of their fights in the back of my head. I can't pull them out. Anyway, all right, just wanted to go over the fights real quick. That'll be the end of this. Again, thank you so much for listening to all this crap. Listen to me rant on about all my stupid stuff. Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, subscribe on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe. If you're not watching this on YouTube, there's video component to this, so you can watch that on YouTube too. Put suggestions, like, really, like, I'm being honest. The email is the same, superlunchbros@gmail.com. If you have suggestions, if you get to something that we could talk about, something that I should do, other than change the background. I know it's yellow in my house. That's the paint color that we went with.
It's not great for recording, but it's great for making me feel good when I come home. Yeah, any suggestions you got, like I'll actually take them to heart. I really appreciate it, and seriously, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys all have a great day.